I is updated from 0 to 1. So now we have 1 is less than 3, which is again true, and then we run this again 5 more times, and then it exits this for loop and goes back over here, and this outer I is updated again, so it goes from 1 to 2. So 2 is less than 3, which is also true. So then we run this again 5 more times, again because of this, because of this I being 0, and then I is less than 5, because of this for loop basically. So since it happens 3 times that 5 lines are outputted, we get a total of 15. That's basically how a nested for loop works. There's another example that I had done. Break statements, I've already done those. I already showed you an example. So moving on to arrays. To use an array, first you need to declare what data type it is. There's integers, doubles, there's characters, string. So first you must declare what data type the array variable is, and then give it a name, and then put these brackets. And inside these brackets, you can input the size of the array. So for example, if we had an integer array, here you would want to put um, the size of the array, and you can equal that, and then you can put braces to like the inside like numbers inside the indexes of the array. So for this example, I'm just going to follow these numbers, so 6, 10, 5, 7, and 12. So the way an array is read, it starts off at 0. So this is the index. So it starts off at 0, and then it continues to keep going. So at index 0, the number is 6. At 1, it is 10. At index 2, it's 5. At index 3, it's 7. At index 4, it's 12. So let's say you're just given an array with these numbers, and you wanted to find what is at index 3. So if you were to see out, and then you were to put the name of the array, and then brackets at index 3, and then we were to show that output. So here we get 7. Again, like the example, because here you have 0, 1, 2, and 3. So in this array, at index 0, you have 6. At index 1, you have 10. At index 2, you have 5. And at index 3, you have 7. So that's why 7 is outputted here. So moving on to functions, kind of like this function, the int main. There are many functions that you can do. So functions have 4 parts to them. They have return types, kind of like what uh, what type of value the function returns to is returning. But some don't. Some functions don't necessarily need to have a return type. These are known as void functions. So after putting the return type, you have the function name, and then you followed by parentheses, and in that parentheses you have the parameters. This is the what data types are being passed into the function, and then after the parentheses you have the function body. So basically the lines of codes stating what the function is for, or what the function is going to do within your program. So to define functions, you want to define them before the main function, or else it will not work. So for example, let's say we had uh, function function for adding. Oh, sorry. Let me write that after here. So let's say we had two integers. Integer a is 7. We had integer b, which is 8. And then let's go with the third one to be. Oh, actually, we don't need a third one. Well, let's go with cout add a b. Oh, first we need to define. Oh, show what this program does. So here we're gonna have um, integer, and then here we're gonna have c is equal to a plus b. And because this is a function, you want to return an integer, and so that would be our c. So if we run that, as you can see, we get an error because this function is put after the main function, and the computer will not read that. So what you want to do is you want to move this function to before. So as you can see here, we can just delete it from there. So we save that, and then we run this again. There we go, we get 15. So we have integer a is 7, b is 8, and we go to add, and then these values get passed on to this function. So we have c is a and b, so we have 7 and 8, and so that means integer c is 15. So we return c, and that's the output that we get. Another way to do this, or the only other way that you can do this, is if you had a prototype. So the only way to have the function that you want to use after the main function would be is a prototype, which is just um, uh, so it would look something like that. Okay, so there you go. The reason it wasn't working before is because since you have two integers, do you need to state that with in the parameters? Prototype is just basically like saying, like, hey, there is this function that you're gonna use, which is later on down here. It's basically letting the computer know that this function that you want to use does exist, and then later here you just go more into defining what the function does, and then you're able to call it within your own main function. So character arrays, they have this null character. Um, like this null character that's at the end of the array shows uh, the array has ended. So we're to this. So we had a character array and says hello on the inside. Don't know how to spell. Uh, and if you were to see out that array, you just you get hello. Um, so to get the size of that character array, if you want to know the size of that character array, because like I said before, arrays work within this space right here in these two brackets. That's where we put the size that you want to work with. But if you don't know, what you can do is, let's say you have an array and it says hello, so you would put size of and then parentheses, and inside of that parentheses you would put the name of your array. So save that and then you execute it. So here we have 6, but the word hello has 5 letters, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But like I mentioned before, a character array has a null character at the end of it, which is taken into account of how many spaces are in there. So that is why the word hello has 6, even though it only has 5 letters. So like I said before, the null character is the end of the array. It kind of shows that that's where the array stops. So if you were to write array and then at index 3, and you were to write the null character, and then you wanted to see out what are the array said now. So previously when we just put C out and then the array, we just had hello, which is down here. But now we stopped at index 3. So here we have, so the H is at index 0, and then E is at 1, and then this L is at 2, and then this second L is at 3, but this L is getting replaced by this null character. And since the null character is the end of the sequence, this is where it will stop. So beyond this point, nothing will show up. Oh, I switched these letters around. So after this third L, which is at this L is at index 2, so this will show up, but this second L, which is at index 3, is replaced with this null character. So after nothing will be shown. So there you go, HEL. Good thing I didn't put it at index 4. I don't know. So if you want to put your own character array, you would use cin.get. So this can be used like, you must first initialize how much space the array has to begin with. And then we can put, let's go with cout, and then input character array. This is where you would use cin.get, and then you're gonna put the name of your array. So mine's ARR, and then the size that you have to work with. And then you can just see out that new array